Alright, today we have Ken and Ben with us. We have an outstanding crack team of people here. Daria, Christina, Ken, and Ben. And so we're going to do a comparison of different methods of doing NMR measurements of very shallow soil. So the first one we're going to do here is this traditional core sampling. So they just inserted the sleeve, the core barrel, the core sleeve. And this thing works by, basically it's a hollow rods that you just drive into the ground, and there's a plastic sleeve in there, and it collects the soil sample. And then you take it out, and what we're going to do is we're going to take that sample and then we're going to run it through this new device, which we call Helios Trek, which is an NMR core sampling or core measurement device. Okay, here goes Ken. He's going to start putting the soil sampling thing. Well, this is going in a lot easier than last time, isn't it?
Well, we took out that
core catcher
basket for the core catcher.
Yeah.
When you have these real fine-grained soils, you don't really need that. That's for more gravelly soils to keep your core from falling out when you retrieve the core.
Glad we got this extreme source of knowledge and experience here with us today. Save us a lot of work.
It's still very easy.
It could just be that Ken is much stronger than the rest of us and in better condition. Do you need a break?
Yeah. Ben, you want to take over?
Sure.
It's good to tag team on this sort of work.
Most of the sites I work at, the soils are a lot rockier, so you'll often get refusal. Just you hit a big gravel like that, you're done for. Whereas this stuff is great. Now we're about to discover, as you already know, the challenge of getting that thing back out of the ground. There's so much suction.
Do you want somebody else to finish up? Maybe
Sure.
Daria or Christina, somebody? Daria's, they're really wiped out from last week doing this.
We couldn't feel our hands.
There you go. Over there.
No, if it's going down.
But the one nice thing
going about
about these type of
few
fine-grained
millimeters.
soils is that, as you saw, once you remove that core, the hole stays open. When you work in these sandy or gravelly soils, you can get the core out, you hope, but then the hole can just slough and collapse.
Well, if this one stays open,
Sure.
let's log it immediately with the Dart. If it stays open.
Oh, I'd be astounded if this, with these fine-grained soils, if this thing does
It
not
kind
stay
of
open.
gets, but it also gets like really watery down there.
Oh, I don't doubt it. Yeah, I mean, you can see where the water level is.
Wow, great job, people.
Okay, that's a team effort.
Oh no, I think it's not going.
Is that as far as we're going? Looks like. So we got all the way down 3 feet almost. We've never gotten it down 3 feet before, did we? Okay, we have to save energy for later. Okay, so that only took 4 minutes. Okay, so now we got to pull it out, which is even harder. Here, do you want a break?
Take a break.
Here, you want me to just...
No.
Okay, Ken's gonna give it a go. Yeah, the last time we had to like actually one person pulling with static force and then the other person with the hammer. Oh, it's coming up. See, it works a lot better when somebody's pulling with static.
Yeah, I gotcha.
That's hard.
Here, you want me to do some work?
Here, you keep filming. We don't have another TIA here.
So we got this core thing out. Let's quickly get the Dart probe in there just in case, so we can log this open hole with it.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah, you can see the water, standing water level is about 1 foot. Yeah, just see if it goes all the way down. So now we're going to put this, since we do have looks like somewhat still of an open hole from that core sample, we're going to quickly put the dart probe down in there, and we'll log whatever we can of this temporarily open core hole. Now, if we had any sand or anything, it would just immediately fill in. You're getting into some mud there.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you can see the water coming up.
Is that as far as it'll go?
You can see the water.
Oh yeah. So we displaced some water, and now you're kind of, it's probably as far as it went. Okay, cool. So we're gonna hook up the dart probe to the dart control unit and do a very shallow log here with the high resolution dart.
Each probe, before we actually use it in the field, we need to calibrate it in the large tank filled with water.
Okay.
So basically calibrating the measurement to be 100% water signal in the beginning.
And so you have that file on the computer?
So yeah, so we need to load that file into the acquisition software before we start doing measurement in the field.
Okay, so we're going to log this small diameter core hole that we just created with the core sampling device with this dart probe. This is our high resolution dart probe. It has a vertical resolution of about 4 centimeters. So we're going to do 4 centimeter steps. And currently we're at the probe's at the bottom of this little core hole, and we just started acquisition. And what we're going to do is every 30-40 seconds or so, raise that probe about 4 centimeters and then put a clamp on it so that it doesn't go back down the hole. So the other thing about this site, see the trees over there? So this place was at one point, well, this is a farmland now, but the natural state of this is a treed forest. In this, we're in a floodplain of the Snohomish River. So this is a floodplain. That's why nobody builds out here. And also, historically, this was a forested area. So we see a lot of organic materials, soils with a lot of organic content in the top couple of meters, which is what we're looking at today. Okay, so now it's time to raise this probe 4 centimeters. So we got marks on the probe here, which you can see from this side. So the easy way to do this is just raise it. It's actually stuck a little bit. There we go. Put the clamp on it, and then it will stay there. Okay, so while we're doing that dart measurement, Christina's going to get the core sample out of the core sample device.
Oh, the moment of truth. Oh, it looks good.
See that? See the roots in there? See that brown stuff?
Yeah, you
I'm
can.
blocking the light, of
I can
course.
see pretty clear evidence of not just fine grain clays and silts, but what looks like some organic matter as
Yeah.
well. And so obviously that's going to have its own unique impact on porosity. Oh, well,
Yeah,
interesting.
that's what happened to us the last time. We only got how much? Even though we drove this core sample sleeve down 3 feet into the ground, we only recovered about 1.5 feet or less than that, maybe 15
so
inches.
Everything just gets compacted.
You know, it's a good question.
Does it get compacted, or does it just get moved out of the way? We don't know. We're still doing the dart. Oh, let's have a look at this.
Yeah, now you can see, roots, other organic material.
Yep.
One of the things we noticed with some hand augering here was that you have an incredibly dense root mass, right? You're sort of looking behind me and around and see very dense grass coverage here. And that rooting zone is, based on our augering last time, is, I'd say, at least 30, maybe even 50 centimeters. And we had a really hard time advancing the auger through that. So it does make me wonder how advancing through that with this coring device is preventing some of the sediment from actually being pulled into the core barrel.
Yeah, it could be. We're still doing the dart. So it could be that that stuff is being smushed, right? It's being compressed, and like a lot of the voids that are there from the decayed organic matter are being smashed into nothing. And it could also be that when you get this much material, especially this clay stuff, it doesn't want to go up further. So instead of collecting more as you advance down, it just kind of pushes out of the way.
Yep. Yep.
Around the outside.
Yep.
So this is the core sampling, and we'll run that through the Helios Trek next. Okay, so now we're switching over to the this is the auger. Well, this is the 1.5 inch PVC pipe with a plastic auger on the bottom. And it's kind of hard getting it started because there's all this grass roots right at the surface. So we've seen this before in the other videos. But Daria knows what she's doing. She's done it before.
Yeah.
I think this is Daria's idea. I think that this thing's your idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So even though this grass is a little tough to get through, it's way easier, I think, than that hammering soil cord thing. So I think you're through the grass now. Now it's just going.
Yep. Now
Ken is familiar with this device.
Yeah, I had a chance to use it maybe 6 months ago. I like it. It's basically making your own access borehole.
No, it's easy.
You're not recovering any solid phase samples, but the beauty of the NMR technique is that the measurements are actually being made out in the undisturbed portion of the formation. And so while it's often nice to have ground truthing, so measurements of solid phase material, as you saw in that previous core, we recovered some material, but certainly not all of it. So any lab-based measurements of those samples are going to be inherently biased because you're not capturing all of the material over which you're making your measurements.
And the depth of any, you have to assume that it's at the correct depth, which who knows, you know? I mean, if you're not got a complete core, it's like, well, we got a 3-foot core with half.
Okay.
You didn't modify that auger since
2
the last
minutes.
time
You
we
can
were
add
here.
more. You know, you can add more.
No, I'm just saying, it was much harder when I was out here last time. That was great.
It was, or maybe it was dry.
I think it was dry, yeah.
Okay. Oh, that works great.
Okay, do we want to use this one again?
Yeah, but let's do this the high resolution probe again. We've got our little lightweight, simple little tripod here with shiv wheel, which we're going to use to demonstrate on this little.
You'll have a depth encoder?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got a built-in depth encoder, and you can hook that up to either a standalone or actually a forthcoming version of the Dart control unit will have a depth counter on it.
Oh, really? Oh, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's going to be called the Olympus.
The Olympus.
That's right.
Yeah.
So although it's not necessary to use a tripod or shiv wheel with this sort of shallow PVC thing, it's, you know, set it up and demonstrate. It does afford, if you do use the depth encoder, it affords automatic depth registration. Okay. Yeah, I'd usually just clamp that to the back leg. Okay, again, we're going to start by using the high resolution Dart probe, built with the 4 centimeter resolution. And so that's how we keep the cable secured. Okay, we just wrapped up this log of the PVC casing here with the high resolution Dart. Now we're going to switch to the new Max Dart, which has a resolution of about 5 inches, and we're going to log it at an 8 centimeter step. So we're just starting now. We're just starting now with the Numax version, and Ken brings up a good question. Why don't you repeat that question?
Sure thing. So I'm sort of curious if one suddenly found themselves in a field like this and you wanted to be collecting NMR data to understand something about subsurface properties, how would you make the decision between which of these two probes would be better suited for the task?
So there's only one question to answer. Do you really need the high resolution or not?
And when you're talking about high resolution, in this case, you're talking about vertical resolution.
That's right.
So the ability to resolve variations in hydraulic parameters at very fine scale vertical resolution.
Absolutely, that's
Gotcha.
it. So the JMax, the J version probe, the high resolution probe has one advantage. That is, it has a better vertical resolution. It's about 4 centimeters vertical resolution. The Numax probe has a vertical resolution of about 10 centimeters, 10 or 12 centimeters. And the Numax also has a higher signal to noise ratio. Not hugely, but significantly higher signal to noise ratio than the J probe. So if you're interested in getting a lot of data quickly, that is more production, you go with the Numax probe. Because it's a lot faster. If you're taking bigger steps and you're able to spend less time averaging at each step to get the same signal to noise ratio, then that's an obvious advantage.
I see. So, you know, in a case like this where we're working with relatively shallow boreholes, there's really nothing wrong with having that higher vertical resolution because you have a relatively sort of shallow vertical depth of interrogation. Now I can imagine I've come out here with a drill rig or some ability to now install, let's say, a 30-meter well. Right, at that point in time, I could see biasing towards something that just had higher throughput because you're not necessarily so concerned about those very, very small vertical sort of spatial steps.
Yeah, and does your application really care? You know, I mean, it just depends. I mean, if the vertical resolution is actually important for what you're trying to do, I mean, a 4 centimeter vertical resolution is a very, very fine resolution for any NMR measurement. So
absolutely.
It's
real quick question then, last one is, remind me again what the zone of investigation is, and does it vary for these two tools?
Two tools have the same diameters of investigation. Those are at 5 inches and 6 inches. So each tool has 2, and they're collected simultaneously. So you get 2 independent measurements, one at a diameter of 5 and one at a diameter of 6. You can tune these tools a little differently so that they see out a little farther, but standard tuning, that's what they are.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep. So the stuff here, mostly silt. You can't roll it for the most part. You got the great, what do you call this? The organic root stuff in there. It's a little piece of wood or something. Yeah, that's really super soft. Look at that. That's what's down there. Not suitable for construction.
Not at all.
Okay, so we have this new product which is called Helios Trek. So it's a mini Helios system that you can use to run freshly extracted core samples. So the inner diameter of this sensor is 2 inches. So you can easily scan core samples. It's 2 inches diameter, so it's very portable, it's very lightweight. Yeah, it's very easy to operate. You just put your core sample inside. And start scanning.
And it works from the Dart control unit, right?
Yes, yeah, you can operate that system from the control unit.
Okay, so we're going to scan this core, what, 1 inches? 1 inches?
So yeah, the vertical resolution of this sensor is about 1.5 inches. So we can just scan this sample with the steps of, we can do 1 inch or 2 inches.
Yeah, let's do 1 inch.
1 inch, okay. It's just a line, it's so smooth. Oh wow, Dave, you should see it.
Let's see. So one advantage of this Helios Trek because it just has a really high signal to noise ratio. I guess we can't really see it with the glare. We'll have to show later. Okay, so we finished all of our measurements of the core and the in-situ measurements over here at the first site. And so what do you see in the data, comparing the core data to the two Dart logs?
So with the core data, there's no mobile water at all. But with the auger, we definitely see mobile water up to like 20%.
And the water content's higher overall?
Yeah.
So the in-situ measurement shows a higher water content. And some water, significant amount of water in longer relaxation times. And so, Ken, what you've observed, and we also noticed that the core sample itself, even though we drove down 3 feet, we've only got like 1.5 feet of actual sample in there.
So it's interesting. So to confirm, you're saying that the Helios core-based measurements showed no mobile water?
Yeah.
And so I think a priori, that's not something that we would have expected, and I suspect that that's not really the case. And I think the in-situ measurements revealed that that's likely not the case. In other words, there's clearly some fraction of mobile water beneath our feet. So what I began to think about, well, we've got a couple possibilities in terms of this slide core. Like this pretty mechanically impactful and compressive type of sampling activity. I noticed when just walking around the land surface here and some other spots is that, you know, these materials are very soft and they're very, very compressible. And so as you advance this core down, again, bang, bang, some material is likely being displaced into the formation and not making its way into the core barrel, which again sits inside the slide core. But I'm also wondering if that act of compression, bang, bang, as we go down with these very deformable fine-grained sediments is actually leading to successive compression of a core that might otherwise have filled this entire core barrel. So in other words, imagine non-compressive materials would have been brought all the way up, we would have had full recovery. But because these materials are so compressive, particularly when they're being impacted by the slide hammer, you're now taking a roughly 3-foot core and compressing it through that action down to something that's about half the length. And so that might also account for some fraction of mobile water that had been displaced out into the formation as a part of this compression and compaction during sampling. So again, a bit of a biased measurement tied to coring where one might have thought, hey, that's the gold standard. The reality is, for certain materials, making these in situ measurements through borehole access is probably a better way to get at real values of interest.
All right, so we're back at the office. Let's have a look at the data that we collected at Ebey Island. This is the data from the first experiment where we ran that Dart probe in the open hole that was created from the core sampling. And you see the presence of the mobile water there and the long relaxation times from about 0.3 meters down. And again, we assume all that water's being in the spaces where there was organic material or there is organic material with large pores. So the second example is the measurement we did with the self-augering PVC casing. And this is the log that we did with the high-resolution Dart probe. And still see the same signature presence of large pore water, again from about 0.3 meters down. The augering tool got penetrated deeper than the coring tool did, so we get additional data at depth. But otherwise, those two measurements are essentially identical. That's good. That shows that one method, creating the hole, extracting matter, versus doing an augering, are both giving the same result. So you don't have like an indication that one of those is causing some sort of significant disturbance out where the NMR measurement is. Third example, this is the example the measurement we did with the Numax probe. So this probe had a lower resolution but a higher signal to noise ratio. So we acquired this data a lot faster, and also you see less variance overall in the water content estimates, and that's because you have higher signal to noise ratio. But otherwise, overall picture looks the same. Okay, here's the Helios Trek measurement of that core sample that we extracted. So other than the fact that we only have a partial sample here, the most notable thing is the water content's lower and there's an absence of mobile water content. You can see that in this part of the display. So let's see. Finally, when we're out in the field, mentioned the high signal to noise ratio of the Helios Trek NMR measurement, but we couldn't really see it with all the sun glare. So here it is. You can see the raw data curve over here on the right. This at a depth of about most of the way down the sample anyway. So that's a very high signal to noise ratio, especially on the short TR data, the early time data. So anyway, if you have any questions, send us an email, info@vista-clara.com, and thank you for watching.